This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you're looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. Right, and welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. We are the official podcast of the Red Towel Trust Collective, and we're also a proud member of the College Huddle podcast community. Feel free to follow us on all our social media platforms. We're literally on all of them. Just search Topper Talk, you'll find us. And as always, I've got Tyler here with me, man. We're ready to jump in and dive into a big and fun episode, man. You ready to get into it?
Yeah, man, let's get into it. This right here will be a fun one to recap.
But before we do that, we have to get caught up with all the athletics that we missed since we last recorded with our Red Towel wrap up, which, as always, is brought to us by Trent Bedding Company. So let's get a word from Trent.
Don't forget your headboard, pillows, and your sheets. We got everything you need for a good night's sleep. Number one on the same check, best of Bowling Green.
All right. Hey! Twin, full, queen, and king. Mattresses for anything. Come and pick it out and we can bring it to your house. Have you sleeping real good before the weekend's out. Trent Bedding. It's just like a mattress store. Hey.
All right, so kicking it off first, the Conference USA B-ball tip-off show or basketball tip-off show was announced as scheduled for October 14th on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, man, basketball season is now right around the corner. I think as we record today, late on Tuesday, they had the first practice of the season. So, practices are starting. Talking season, is literally just 3 weeks away. We'll start to see a lot of those preseason just players of the year, where we're predicted to finish. So I'm excited to get that show on the road. Obviously, I hope we're going to have some good basketball content coming up real soon, and looking forward to that getting started.
Moving on, WKU volleyball beat Arkansas State 3-0, then beat Eastern Illinois 3-0, and finished up the Alyssa Kavanaugh Classic by sweeping Austin Peay 3-0. Kaylee Koch and Kennedy Cole was named to the All-Tournament team. Kaylee Koch was named Conference USA Offensive Player of the Week, and Izzy Vanderwild was named Conference USA Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, I think last episode we talked about the volleyball team going through some growing pains, had lost some games, had lost, I think, 3-4 games in a row. We talked about being a young team, but that we were still confident in what they were going to do and how they would turn it around and right this ship. And no better place to do that than the Alyssa Kavanaugh Classic that's hosted here at Western Kentucky, obviously honoring the life and memory and legacy of one of the greatest players in our program's history in Alyssa Kavanaugh. Got back on the winning side, won all 9 sets of that tournament. Kaylee Cox and Kennedy Coyle being named to the all-tournament team. And then Conference USA releasing today that, Kaylee Cox was also the offensive player of the week, and Izzy Vanderwild was the defensive player of the week. I think that's just great news for them, obviously, and for the program, kind of stepping back into the right direction of winning games. Now, getting ready for conference play. So still not worried about this team. I think we're going to handle Conference USA play. We've had a tough grind of a non-conference schedule, but I still think our best volleyball is in front of us for this team, and not worried about them at all and how this season is going to go for them.
No, me neither, man. Moving on, WKU soccer started Conference USA play with a 0-0 tie versus La Tech. Maddie Davis was named to Conference USA goalkeeper of the week. She had 4 saves in WKU's tie versus La Tech.
Yeah, started off conference play with a tie. That's better than taking a loss. So still got a point there with it not being a loss. Maddie Davis was named a goalkeeper of the week 4 saves in the game. I think it was her 10th career shutout. I think I read in the notes of that article of her winning that award. So just great for her. Hope we see more of that defensive effort. And obviously, you want to find the net going forward as we move into conference play. But we'll take a tie. It's not a loss. So congratulations to the soccer team and Maddie.
Now, this next one's big news. I guess he must have heard we was some wild ones up here at WKU, because WKU football announced that Flo Rida will be the pregame concert before the Kennesaw State game on Wednesday, October 30th.
Yeah, I'm liking this new, pregame concert tradition that now 3 years in a row that we've started to do. So I think it's really fun for the atmosphere, for the tailgating, bringing students out, bringing the community out. And obviously, it's a little bit of a throwback. Flo Rida's, a little bit older of an artist now at this point in his life, but I'm excited for it. I think it's going to bring people out just like Shaq did, just like the concert did last year. Um, I'm glad that officially got announced finally this last game, and I'm looking forward to being on campus and enjoying that.
Now, don't lie. You enjoyed last year's concert, Jordan Davis. I know you did, man. But moving on, Lady Topper finished second overall in the Lady Paladin Classic. Of course, led by Katie Craig and Avery Klein, both tied for second at 7 under, and Sydney Hackett in 20th at +5. Avery Klein shot a career best 8 under for 64 on Sunday to finish strong.
Yeah, the second tournament in a row that our golf team has finished in second place. So obviously we want to win those tournaments, but finishing in second is nothing to hang your head about. Led by the always consistent Katie Craig. Nice to see those second and third golfers, Avery Klein and Sydney Hackett, they're stepping up and being more consistent. I think that's going to bode well for us in the future at tournaments. It's going to help us finish higher like we have. Top two finishes is nothing to sneeze at. So I'm proud of those girls and looking forward to how they perform going forward.
Cole Maynard was named Conference USA Special Teams Player of the Week. Maynard averaged 50.8 yards on 6 punts, the fifth highest average in a single game in program history, with 4 punts traveling over 50 yards, including a long of 57 and 2 downed inside the 20. He also had a punt downed on the 2-yard line that set up the safety by the defense on the next play.
Yeah, there for a while in the Toledo game that, we'll recap here shortly. It felt like he was kind of the player of the game. He kept flipping the field every time the offense stalled out. He was just booming the ball down to the other end of the field. So really, really excited for, what he's shown with his leg. Had a lot of kicks versus Alabama and several kicks versus Toledo this past Saturday. But, man, he's showing that he can flip the field. If we're playing field position, we don't have to necessarily go for it on 4th down. If we're near that gray area of the 50-yard line, where sometimes you just go for it just because of the field position. He's showing he can flip the field, pin you inside the 20, and make you have to go out and put together a long drive. So congratulations to Cole.
And Devontae Matthews was named Conference USA Defensive Player of the Week. Devontae had 2 interceptions in the final 2 minutes when Toledo was threatened to score, and another earlier in the game that was wiped off due to a pass interference penalty on another defender.
Yeah, Devontae definitely was the nail in the coffin twice in that game. It was just crazy. The first interception, with under a minute to go, you think, all right, this game's done. We've won. We just have to salt it away. Obviously, the crazy turnover that we'll talk about here in a little bit, I'm sure. Crazy turnover, fumble, gets reversed to Toledo's ball. They have a couple more shots at the end zone, and he just does it again and just makes it look easy when he did it. Got the ball, got a foot down, and sent Toledo back to Ohio. So congratulations to him. Obviously, a huge defensive effort, and really proud and happy for him.
And that concludes the Red Tail Wrap-Up, brought to you by the Trent Bedding Company. Moff, back to you.
Yeah, always a good wrap up. A lot of wins. Volleyball getting back on track, golf performing strong, and then this football game we have to talk about, man, because what an absolute wild game it was. It was a roller coaster of a game. The victory over Toledo, ended up with a 26-21 victory. The attendance for the game was 19,127 people. The game itself was a wild affair that saw a lightning delay pause the game for almost an hour and 20 minutes. There in basically the middle of the third quarter, around the 8-minute mark left in the third quarter. And then WKU came out of that lightning delay, that weather delay, and really played with their hair on fire and was able to capture this win in dramatic fashion. With what we just talked about, Devontae Matthews, with not one but two game-sealing interceptions. Where Toledo, quite frankly, they were going down to drive and win this game. And what just was an absolutely crazy game. Felt like we gave it away, and then we persevered and we won that game, man. Tyler, just what are your opening thoughts on this game and just how it played out and just how crazy it was a victory for WKU?
Well, it showed that this team it has a fight in them. You know, I think one of the keys of victory was play gritty, and I think they did that. You know, there's a lot of times that they could have just hung the helmet up and say, "Well, this is a loss." They didn't. They continued to go out there and fight, and mostly fought and played in a near empty stadium after the lightning delay, the storm delay. So for them to come out there and create their own, I guess, swagger, come out there and just be fired up, just speaks to them, because this team wasn't no pushover. I said it before, this is going to be a fist fight. It lived up to that. I told you in the spaces afterwards that I was going through all the emotions: happy, anger, depressed, anxious, joy. Yeah, this game had it all. You know, offense played good, defense came up really strong, with some stops. And actually, you know, the dude, when he was on our podcast for Toledo, said that their quarterback, Tucker Gleason, hadn't thrown an interception. And I was like, "Oh, you just put the nail in that coffin, buddy." And, you know, he not thrown one, but he thrown two in that game. This was a great game. I wish I could have been to it. I had some other plans and I couldn't get out of them, but dude, such a great game to watch and listen.
Yeah, we've got to talk about, the game day and the tailgating atmosphere. I know you didn't get a chance to make it to campus, but man, let me tell you, it was electric on campus. I mean, I was on campus around 11 o'clock to deliver some food to the equipment staff. And then when I came back around, I think it was around 3 o'clock before kickoff, I mean, South Lawn was covered, the whole Egypt lot by the roundabout. Everything had tents, people walking, tailgating. There was just an energy on campus. You could feel it as soon as you got past the roundabout driving into campus. It was awesome to see. Once I parked and actually got on campus and on South Lawn, I mean, people everywhere. It was literally it was packed out. It looked like a homecoming, perfect type weather. It was warm outside. I made it over to the Red Towel Trust setup, their tailgate. Really awesome setup. Really glad I got to be a part of that and join it. I didn't get to go during the EKU game, but checked it out. Got to see some old friends and talk to people there. Saw the basketball players. They were the special guests. Saw them browsing around and talking to people. So, it was really the best tailgating scene that I remember since the IU home game that we played a few years ago when Bailey Zappi was here. I mean, it was just that packed. It was that special. And I really think and I hope and I wish that the tailgating could look like that for every single game. I think that's what it should look like. I think that's what it can look like. This was a good opponent that we played. The weather was nice. It was a little warm, but it was perfect. It wasn't cold. You weren't melting out there like the USF game from last year or the Vanderbilt game from a few years ago. It was warm outside, but not sweltering. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better game day experience. And then to see the fans and the crowd show up, not only to tailgating, but then they went inside the game as well. They didn't just stay outside. 19,127 was the announced crowd. I was in the new press box, so I had a bird's eye view of the old side of the stadium, and I put a video up, panning, from the berm over to the tents, showing the whole old side, and it was packed. I mean, it was packed up from side to side, top to bottom. The top left corner was a little thin, and then the visitor section where Toledo was, even though they brought their band, which was really cool. I'm glad they did that. And the Toledo section, they had a good showing of fans. 500 to 1,000 in that ballpark. It wasn't full by any means, but they're almost 6 hours away. It was definitely a solid showing by Toledo as well. But just I'm glad that everyone showed up. We talked about it in the preview for this game. This is the type of game that we lose 10 out of 10 times, and we talked about in the spaces. We have a big home opponent. We have a good record. Weather's good. Tailgating's good. All these people show up. Granted, we had a weather delay that cleared it out, but 99% of the time we lose that game, and then our next home game is half that many people showing up. So hopefully we can continue to build off the momentum, the atmosphere of that game. This Boston College game that we'll preview shortly. It's going to be a tough one. On the road, it's an ACC, Power 4 opponent. We're underdogs. It kind of is what it is, but we have a puncher's chance. And then we turn around and play UTEP at home in a midweek game that, I don't want to say it should be a cakewalk, but at this point, it looks like that should be a pretty easy victory. And hopefully we're coming off at least a competitive game with Boston College, if not a win. An upset win by Vegas odds would be great, just to carry over that momentum of just how great the tailgating was for this Toledo game, because I can't say it enough. The Barstool Western account shared an awesome video that showed kind of a drone shot coming down on South Lawn and went through the tents. I'm telling you, it was electric. It was amazing. And it's really what I think every single game should look like. Tyler, I guess tell me what it looked like. You're at home watching. What did the stadium look and sound and feel like, before that weather delay?
Well, the stadium sounded really good. And I was listening to Randy and on the radio call, because I still enjoyed listening to them. The crowd was loud. It sounded and looked phenomenal. There was one play where they reviewed it, and I can't remember what it was, but I heard a loud crowd yelling, and I was like, "Oh, that must have went our way." It didn't. It went in favor of Toledo, and I can't remember what it was. But other than that, it sounded good until the thunder, or until the storm delay, and then people started clearing out. It was like an hour and 20 minutes, I believe. It's hard to keep people around that long, especially when the game is late like that. But I really, to echo what you said, I hope people start coming to the games. This team needs it. This team deserves it. And it'd be awesome to chill in a almost packed or sold out Houghton Smith Stadium.
Yeah, it was incredible. And like I said, and you said, I hope and think that it should be like that every single game. I think we should be pushing sellout, north of 18, 19,000 like this game was. Granted, it was Parents Weekend. That certainly helped. Good weather certainly helped, and a good opponent helped. But if we show up and support these Hilltoppers, I think good things will happen in the future, just in a lot of areas. Now, looking at the game and just talking about how it played out, it obviously was the first career start for quarterback Caden Veltkamp. I guess probably not the type of game that, if he drew it up exactly how he wanted, probably not the game on paper that he would have wanted to have in his first career start, but still, respectable numbers: 20 out of 30 passing, 242 yards, one passing touchdown. He did have those two interceptions, one of them really early in the game. I don't remember if it was the first drive or the second drive of the game, but potentially going down to score, through, just a bad pass, into double coverage, quite frankly. Had a receiver that was open. I think it was intended for Dalvin Smith near the goal line. Was open for a moment, but it was a tight window, double coverage, ended up being intercepted. And then it kind of felt like after that point of the game, the offense kind of changed a little bit. We weren't taking as many deep shots. We were kind of going more east and west and north and south, and just not being as productive and as efficient as we saw during that Middle Tennessee game. I really think, a lot of us had high expectations for just how efficient, 300 plus passing yards, 5 touchdowns, just how good he played that game was probably, as good as he could have played, especially in relief. So it just looked like a little bit of a slower, not quite as efficient offense. And I think that early interception definitely played a part in that. Then he had another interception later in the game. Again, I think it was a throw intended for Easton Messer. Had him open for a minute. He kind of was on an out route, had him up the seam and had him open for a minute. But again, that window closed, kind of threw into double coverage and got intercepted. So I think that's the growing pains you have with a young quarterback. He's a redshirt sophomore. That's his third career game action of any significance, from the ODU bowl game to the MTSU game, basically playing that whole game, and now being his first home start with a big, big crowd on hand. I'm sure there were a little bit of jitters. He said in a pregame interview, he hadn't started a football game as QB1 since December of 2021 when he was a high school senior. So kind of crazy to think about. That's been almost 3 years since he started a football game. But glad he stuck around. Glad he got to make his first career start at the Houch, and ultimately, help lead us to victory. Now, our leading rusher was Elijah Young. He had 9 carries for 36 yards. Then Caden Velkamp also, showed his legs are pretty mobile as well. He had 16 carries for 20 yards and also 2 rushing touchdowns. He called his number a couple times, got down near the goal line, and was able to get in and help lead us back into victory. Now, obviously, he did have that fumble, near the end of the game after the first Devontae Matthews interception. We're just trying to run clock, make Toledo burn timeouts. He tucks one, runs into the pile, and ultimately ends up fumbling the ball when, the fans and the refs, everybody made it appear that the play was called dead. Play got reviewed. They said it wasn't called dead. It was a live fumble, clearly recovered by Toledo. So it was reversed and given to Toledo. And that kind of led to those dramatics of that, that last 43 seconds of the game, whatever it was, where they had a couple shots at the end zone, kind of shot themselves in the foot with a couple penalties that backed them up a little bit. And then Devontae Matthews ultimately salted that game away with another interception. And then Keyshawn Johnson was our leading wide receiver. He had 6 receptions for 73 yards and 1 touchdown. Again, I think that's his third consecutive game now where he's been our leading wide receiver, has found the end zone, has proven himself to be a real reliable target. And then Easton Messer also had 4 catches for 68 yards. Another great and solid game for Easton. So, Tyler, tell me about, offensively, how did Western look to you and some of these guys that stood out to you?
Well, like I said, it wasn't compared to the MTSU game. Caden with Caden playing as QB, there was a sharp drop off, but that also happens because of the talent of the opposing team. I didn't know Caden rushed the ball 16 times. I knew he rushed a lot, especially on them 2 QB or on them two times he scored. But I didn't know he rushed 16 times. That's crazy. And yeah, that fumble, man, I don't know why they didn't hand that off to Elijah Young or George Hart or LT, anybody. But it is what it is. If you look, also River Helms had 2 receptions, 27 yards. Bryce Childress had 1 reception, 19. Dalvin Smith had 2 for 18. George Hart, he caught 1. It was in the backfield. Did not go for positive yardage, though, sadly. But, I mean, in this game, 73 yards leading receiver, 68 second, 32, 27, 19, 18. And Starlin, he had 1 reception for 8 yards. This one, it was more of kind of a grind. There wasn't no one receiver getting an absolute just crap ton of yards. All these yards were hard earned, and like I said, that just speaks to the talent of Toledo's defense. Rushing Elijah Young, 36 yards, total 71 for the team. I mean, I'll take them. But I think the offense played good. You just got to clean up some of those fumbles and interceptions.
Yeah, it definitely felt like we again, left points off the board. I think we said that versus EKU, definitely left some points off the board with some turnovers and penalties. Did that again when I feel like against Toledo. We had that interception early in the game going down to the goal line. Turned over Toledo a couple times with a short field for us and only came away with 3 points. So, just I feel like we missed some opportunities to score some points. We had some bad turnovers, some bad penalties that either took away turnovers for us or extended drives for them. I don't think it was our cleanest game of football overall offensively, and we still were able to get out this win. That typically we don't win. I think anybody watching the game or listening to this podcast will say we lose that game, 10 times out of 10. I think we remember the Mike Sanford era, the ODU game where they had 3 or 4 untimed downs to end that game at Houchin Smith Stadium. I remember sitting there watching it like penalty, penalty, penalty. They go down the field and kick a game-winning field goal to beat us, which was a crazy ending. And this one might have been basically just as crazy with the an interception and then a fumble that you don't think is a fumble. It gets reversed. They get the ball, and then they throw another interception for us to put that game away. So just an absolutely crazy game that we had to show a lot of resolve and grit and leadership, quite frankly, to win and put that game away. Now, talking about some of the defensive performers, our leading tacklers were Upton Stout with 7 tackles and Deontay McCray with 6. We had 2 guys that had sacks, and Kent Robinson and Kylan Guidry. And then Devontae Matthews, we've talked about him already, had 2 game-clinching, game-sealing interceptions. And I put an asterisk beside this on my notes because he should have had 3. He should have had the hat trick early in the game, going down the field. He had an interception near the end zone on a long pass play that was wiped off the board because they called a PI on the primary defender of the intended target, which I don't agree with. The crowd was booing like crazy. The ball was uncatchable because Devontae jumped in front of it and intercepted it, quite frankly. But it is what it is. He still had 2 interceptions, had a great game. The defense, in my opinion, was kind of a tale of, I don't want to say a tale of 2 halves, but it was definitely a tale of one side of the weather delay and then the other side of the weather delay. After the weather delay, like I mentioned earlier, we came out playing like our hair was on fire, was really aggressive, getting in the backfield, causing chaos, making their quarterback, throw 2 interceptions, quite frankly. Just living in the backfield. We definitely came out with more juice. We definitely stayed ready during that long delay. And I think that showed, who came out fresher, who came out ready, and who wanted to win this game. So, Tyler, I guess talk to me about this defense and just, what stood out to you in this comeback victory versus Toledo.
Well, also the tackles for loss. Anthony Johnson Jr. had a half tackle for loss. Jaden Lovin, Devontae Matthews, and Zach Edwards, and then Devin Lynch. They all got back in the backfield, or at least got the wide receiver or running back. They caught the ball behind the line of scrimmage. Upton Stout, 7 total tackles, 5 solos. Dante McCray, Hosea Wheeler, Dallas Walker, he had 4 total tackles, 3 solo. Defense was just, you're right, after that rain delay, I guess the coaches got in there, got talking to them, told them what they needed to do, and they came out playing great, like their hair's on fire and their ass is catching, kind of like what you said. But man, I couldn't be prouder of this defense whenever they came out there and started to bend and not break, and just really holding strong and blitzing and getting back there, making the quarterback uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about some of these key indicators of this game. And usually this kind of paints a picture of who wins this game or why you lost this game, but this one's kind of not as clear a picture. But I guess it kind of makes sense for how wacky this game was. So looking at first downs, WKU had 16 on the game. Toledo had 17. Looking at third down conversions, WKU was 3 out of 12. Not good. Not winning a lot of games, going 3 out of 12. Toledo was 10 out of 18. Now, I want to make a note here. Before the weather delay, Toledo was 9 out of 13 on third down conversion. So after the weather delay, they were 1 out of 5. And I think that, quite frankly, was the difference in this ball game. We started getting them off the field. We were getting the ball back, causing chaos. That defensive line, the blitz was just, we turned it up to 100, and I think the result showed it. 10 out of 18 for the game doesn't, looks pretty good for them, but when they go from 9 of 13 to 10 of 18 to finish the game, we finished stronger for sure. We talked about it being a sloppy game. Penalties wise, WKU had 10 penalties for 104 yards. Um, that again, that loses you a lot of ball games, like we talked about with third down conversions. And it was very lopsided for a lot of the game till Toledo, I think, had two or three, kind of consecutively on their last couple possessions. They finished the game with 8 penalties for 70 yards. So they tried to even it up with us for some reason. I don't know why. And then keeping on the sloppy trend here, turnovers. Toledo had 4 turnovers. WKU had 3. So 7 total turnovers in this game between interceptions and fumbles. It was just not the cleanest game by either team. And then time of possession, WKU had the ball for 25 minutes and 41 seconds. Toledo had the ball for 34 minutes and 19 seconds. So just a really mixed bag of, those key indicators of what you think would have happened if you just looked at the stats. It probably looks like Toledo wins that game. But again, we were able to somehow snatch defeat away and get that victory. We weren't letting that happen. So really proud of this team. Tyler, let's jump into some grades for this big win versus Toledo. So first of all, what have you got for the offense?
Well, we came away with a win, so it can't be a D. I'm not going to say it's a C because this was a hard fought win. Like I said before, the defense for Toledo was a lot better than MTSU, a lot better than EKU. I'm going to give the offense a B plus, A minus on this one because it was sloppy and it could have been done a whole lot better. But at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do, and we got the W.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm giving them a B as well. Basically for the same reasons. Left points off the board, too many penalties, too many turnovers. Against a better opponent, Boston College, being the next one. Liberty later in our schedule. Against a better opponent, we probably lose that game. I definitely think we have to play a cleaner game. We have to execute better going forward. But we did do enough to win. I'm not going to call it an average performance, a C, so I'm giving the guys a B as well. What about the defensive grade versus Toledo?
You're right. Before the rain delay, like we said before, it wasn't very good. We did hold them scoreless in the first quarter. They got 14 in the second quarter, 7 in the third quarter, and in the fourth quarter they didn't score at all. And the defense saved us and actually won us this game. Also, we got that safety in the third, though. That was awesome. In part because of special teams, but we'll talk about them in a second. I'm gonna give defense an A minus in this one. It was ugly at the beginning, but they really cleaned up and they kind of redeemed themselves there after the rain delay.
Yeah, I'm giving the defense an A as well. I think they did everything and more, creating turnovers, stopping, getting off the field and getting our offense back on the field. I think they did everything that they should have done. And then even more above and beyond coming out of that lightning delay with several big stops. You mentioned the special teams play that, turned into a safety. 2 game sealing interceptions. The defense played outstanding. I really hope they build upon that for the rest of the season because I think they showed what they can do when they're playing at their best. They're playing aggressive. They're going after the quarterback. I think we saw something in that game that hopefully we can build off. So definitely an A for me. What about your special teams grade?
Cole Maynard, he had some great punts. The long one 57, total 264 yards. He was bombing it down the field. Once he overkicked it and gave him a touchback. But for that, I will forgive him. And Luke's Canario, 100% on field goals, 3 for 3 on extra points. I'm gonna give them an A, dude. That was great. It really helped us whenever he did flip the field there in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I'm also giving special teams an A. I mean, obviously, Cole Maynard being the special teams player of the week doesn't hurt. Canario, 101 on field goal attempts, made all his PATs. And then the special teams play, we talked about down in that ball at the 2 yard line. That was Rex Robich that went down and stopped that ball from going into the end zone. WKU football put out a great clip of that kind of happening in slow motion from a different angle. You can watch him dive and hit that ball. And then our other player, I think it was Chandler Matthews or somebody that downed it actually on the 2 there, and then Rex celebrating in the end zone. Man, that was a winning play. That felt like a play that really kind of changed the momentum of the game. Started that scoring after the long weather delay. And quite frankly, Toledo didn't score a point after we got back from that long weather delay. So special teams definitely gets an A for me. What about your grade for the coaches?
Well, I think you're right. When they first started the game, they were willing to take the kind of the high possibility throws, possibility of getting picked off or completion. I think they did get a little bit scared, so that kind of caused them to ease up on it. But then they was like, you know what, let's go balls to the wall. That rain delay really helped them out. I think they really got to calm down and got to talk to the dudes and really got their game plan in motion. I'm gonna give coaches a B in this one. At the beginning, it could have been a little bit better, but we stayed in it all game, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with an A. I think offensively we were maybe more conservative than I would have liked, but we did open that up and win the game. Defensively, I mean, you can't ask for much more than what we did. We stopped them on the run, caused turnovers, got off the field a ton. Really, really happy and excited for how we execute. So I'm giving the coaches an A. What about the fans in this game for Toledo? Let's assume this is before the weather delay.
Okay. Man, from all the videos I've seen of all the tailgate being packed and seeing the stands like that, 19,000 fans there, that's amazing. I really hope we can keep that up, but I'm going to give the fans an A for that one. Just a great turnout.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, you can't give them anything else but an A for how they showed up. They were loud. They tailgated. They came into the game. The students were there. They were all loud before the lightning and the rain ran them away. So definitely an A for the fans. And what about your overall grade for this 26-21 victory versus Toledo?
Overall, it's going to be an A2, man. I mean, just a great game. A little slow at the beginning, but it did pick up, and I'm glad they was able to make them corrections. I'm glad the offense is able to come together and get that putting them points on the board. The defense is able to stand strong, man. Yeah, A for me.
Yeah, also an A for me. It may have been a little messy and muddy at first, but it really came together there at the end. And maybe that lightning delay was the best thing that happened for us for that game. We needed that break. We need to recalibrate, reset ourselves, and came out and looked like a different team in that second half of the second half, I guess you could call it. But man, what a fun game. Like I said in the beginning, a roller coaster of emotions there at the end, thinking we were going to lose and then we were going to win and then lose again. And then we end up winning. Just a crazy game. And then really had a lot of fun after that game. For the third game in a row, we jumped on Twitter Spaces, which now we're 3-0 when we do Twitter Spaces. We started after the after the EKU game, MTSU, and now the Toledo game. So we're going to try to keep that rolling. Obviously, availability and work schedules, etc., might get in the way of that eventually. But it has been really fun, jumping on Twitter and just having a pretty good group of people that seems to get bigger and bigger every game, jumping in there, willing and wanting to talk about the game and what they saw, what they experienced and liked and didn't like. Really having a lot of fun doing that. Obviously, this next game, Boston College, is an 11 a.m. kickoff, so it's going to end earlier in the day, a 2 p.m. finish time. We try to start that within about an hour after the game ends. So we'll see. We'll play it by ear. We'll let it be known on Twitter before the game ends if we're going to be able to put that together. But hopefully we can continue that, as the season moves forward. It has been a lot of fun. and definitely enjoying that. So now looking forward to this weekend's game on Saturday, 9/28. WKU does visit Alumni Stadium in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, to play at Boston College in our first ever matchup with Boston College. The game is at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on the ACC network. Boston College enters this game with a record of 3-1 after beating Michigan State this past weekend, and they were bouncing back from losing to Missouri the week prior. They had recently been in the top 25 until that lost, and they are currently still receiving votes and currently sit at 28th in the AP poll. WKU is also 3-1 on the season. We're also 1-0 in conference play with that win over MTSU a couple weeks ago. And we just obviously beat Toledo. So coming in with a 3-game winning streak since that opening week loss to Alabama. Now, this game opened with Boston College being an 11-point betting favorite. If you're into that sort of thing, the over-under was 56.5. And now that line has since moved to Boston College as a 12.5-point favorite with an over-under of 55.5. And the ESPN matchup predictor also really, really likes Boston College in this game, giving them an 88.9% chance to win, with only 11.1% chance for WKU to win. So obviously this is just going to be a big matchup. They're a top 25, quality and caliber team. It's on the road. It's an ACC opponent. It's a P4 opponent. And it's just going to be a big, tough test for us if we want to go in there and knock them off as the underdog. So Tyler, I guess give me your initial thoughts on this game before we dive into Boston College.
I think this is going to be another fist fight, man. The Boston College is coming on. They got that new coach in there. He is obviously doing a really good job. Only losing one game to Missouri, being in top 25, getting 25 votes, top 25 votes. This is an uphill battle, but that's what we are. We climb that hill. We're hill toppers. I see you still going in there and getting this W. And what a great way to go in there and not shock the college football world, but help us further plead our case for future, playoff contention.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a big matchup, and I think it's a winnable game. Quite frankly, at the end of the day, I think just like I said against Toledo, we're going to have a puncher's chance coming into this game if we play our best football. Now, we did get a little help from a friend of ours over at the Eagles Weekly podcast. We had Brett join us. He's going to talk to us a little bit more about Boston College and their football team this year and just what to expect. So let's get into that interview right now. All right, joining us now, we have Brett from the Eagles Weekly podcast. So, Brett, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely, man. I'm really looking forward to getting to talk some Boston College ball. Obviously, I was just recently on your show, so I love that we get to, return this favor and talk to you and, get to learn more about Boston College. But first of all, I have to ask, what is the perception of WKU from the Boston College viewpoint coming into Alumni Stadium? Are we just another G5 team coming in, or is there some concern in your fan base that we potentially could have a chance in this game?
Yeah, I would absolutely say that there is a sizable amount of concern when it comes to you guys. I think historically you guys have always been a tough, strong football team. Obviously, we talked about it on my show yesterday. We're very familiar, with you guys due to Bailey Zappi, and Kai Robichaux. So I don't think anyone is really looking at this game like, this is an automatic win or anything like that. Bill O'Brien did talk about in the press conference that there's going to be no trap games at Boston College. Like, that's his mentality. Like, we're not, I think his whole idea is like, we're not looking ahead to Virginia next week. We're in the here and now, and we're focused on Western Kentucky. So yeah, I would say absolutely that, there's like a nice, healthy bit of fear, with you guys kind of rolling into town for sure.
Well, awesome. Well, speaking of Bill O'Brien, he was brought in as the new or as a head coach, and that's obviously a great hire. He's got a well-known name in football circles. What were the preseason expectations of this Boston College team?
So, I mean, Vegas gave us 4.5 wins, coming into the year. So I think nationally, no one really was expecting much. I think the fan base was very much so willing to give him a pass year one. I think if you talk to most BC fans coming into the year, I think, 6, 7 wins, was going to be more than acceptable. Especially when you have a first year head coach implementing a new offense, new schemes across the board. There's going to be growing pains. I don't think that anyone really expected this kind of success this early. And it's and it's not like they've, completely blown the doors, off the wagon in terms of success so far. But I think just the way that they have played in the cohesivity of the units is far better than I would say, 4 games into, Bill O'Brien's tenure. You really see it during the pregame too. Like you see it when they're on the field and the way they warm up, the way they stretch, the way they kind of come out. It's very methodical. It's very kind of like professional. And I think that's been the biggest difference. And it's really, starting to show up in their play. And, I'm really excited to see, as we kind of go along through the season, how it progresses even more. He's been talking about getting to another level. So we'll see if, we'll be able to do that, over the course of this year.
Another level sounds like a good podcast title. I like it. I think, one of the first and biggest tasks of a new coach coming in is obviously building his staff and then recruiting players, whether that's, re-recruiting guys that, you hope stay on your team or filling holes of guys that leave or just position needs, etc. How would you say that Bill O'Brien did in this offseason leading up to the season beginning with his staff and recruiting players?
I think he did a phenomenal job, especially when you look at Coach Hafley, he left so late in the cycle. And because of that, not only, and I think we struck gold even being able to get a guy like Bill O'Brien that late in the cycle. On top of that, that also opened the door for every single player on the roster to leave at that point. I think it was like a 30-day window where they would have been allowed to, transfer without any repercussions. Bill O'Brien and his staff kept all of them for the most part. There were a couple fringe roster guys, that had left, a couple guys that, really hadn't got much time previous and didn't look like they were going to make too much of an impact anyway. But Bill O'Brien was able to keep all of the transfer portal guys that Hafley brought in. All the recruits stayed on board, and the entire offense and defense, everyone stayed. So from that perspective, we did a phenomenal job. And I think that kind of goes a long way into, the fact that the team really believes in his vision and what he's building and what he kind of brings to Boston College. And then, really seeing the recruiting that has gone on in the past, couple months, and just kind of the steady recruits that he's been able to kind of bring on board. And, I think there was 87 recruits at the Michigan State game, which, thank friggin' God they didn't lose that game, because that could have got bad quick. But yeah, he's in terms of like roster retention, it's been an amazing job. They actually created a new position, which is kind of like a de facto GM type of guy. Burge, I forget what his last name is, but he came from the Patriots. He was with the Patriots. He was like Bill Belichick's right hand man for 20 plus years. So they brought him on board, created a position for him in terms of like roster management. So I think once Hafley left and it came to, it was make or break. Like we not only did they need to make a big, kind of a splash of a hire, but they really needed to decide, like, are they going to invest in this program or not? And, Blake James, the athletic director, like really made the decision to, make that investment in the program and really allow Bill O'Brien to kind of, flourish in this environment. And it's all new for BC. This hasn't been the norm whatsoever, so it's very refreshing as a fan and as someone who's been following the program for 20 plus years to see.
Well, kind of continuing on that track of train of thought. Now you're 3-1 on the season. You've been in the top 25. You received, you're still receiving top 25 votes. Yeah. What have you learned so far about this team?
I think the biggest thing that we've learned about this team is probably their resiliency. The Florida State game was nice. Obviously, Florida State, we're looking at them now. They're 1-3. They're not that great. It was still a nice win at the time. You look at when we played Duquesne week 2, and Duquesne's an FCS team. And, last year we barely beat Holy Cross, who's the FCS team that was on our schedule. So to be able to blow them out was a big step in the right direction. The Missouri game is probably what impressed me the most because they did not play well for, I would say, probably about 3.5 quarters. They did not play well at all. They were very one-dimensional. Their entire running game was shut down, which is, that's BC's identity. They lost by 6 points. They scored a late touchdown to at least keep it competitive. That tells me that they like the mantra of this team and kind of like the mindset of this team is to like never give up. They're always fighting. They're always working. And you can kind of see that they're really starting to believe in themselves that they should win. The Michigan State game last week, they lose that game 10 times out of 10 any other year. Like that's a game where we always have that one, we call it the WTF game, where it's like that one game on the schedule where, you look back and you're like, how did we lose that game? That was the Michigan State game for us. So to be able to really kind of rally in the second half, come back and, get that win, it was just like that was something we haven't seen. And I remember talking to my friends about it. I'm like, that's new, like we don't experience that. We don't, score a late touchdown and then get an interception to steal the win. Like I don't know how to feel about that. That's different. But yeah, it's been very impressive to really kind of see, not only the quality of play from Boston College, but really the resolve that they have and really like the mentality of the team. It's been very impressive. And, it all comes down to coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy that you just said, you lose that game 10 times out of 10, because I feel like we just came out that same exact game, the game against Toledo. In my 20 plus years as a WKU fan, we lose that game 90+% of the time. We gave it away several times and still somehow clawed back. So, man, I love to see the resilience of both of our teams. Now, I've got to dive in and know a little bit more about some of the specific players on your roster, because obviously you have a good offense and just a lot of good, especially rushing players, and your quarterback is one that we need to know about, and I'm sure you're going to talk about. But can you highlight for us at least 3 offensive players that the WKU fan base needs to be aware of that is probably going to be out there making plays for Boston College?
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's not going to be a homecoming with Kai Robichaux, which side note, he's one of my favorite players on the team. I've loved that kid since last year when he came over. Just he's a bowling ball, right? Amazing kid. Trayshawn Ward has been a phenomenal running back for us as well. And they were a great duo the first couple of weeks, before Kai went down. So, really look for Trayshawn Ward to be able to catch passes out of the backfield. He's very good inside the tackles, much like Kai is. And then we have another running back who, really had his moment in the sun last week. True freshman. He goes by Turbo Richard. No one knows what his real first name is. I don't even know if he knows what his real first name is, but he's phenomenal. He scored a touchdown, and he lives up to his name. He's very fast. He gets to the outside quick, and he really hits the corner. I would say in terms of we know Tommy Castellanos. I feel like he's been rightfully so kind of getting the recognition that he deserves. receiver Lewis Bond has been the most consistent receiver over the past 2 years. And they even brought in a couple guys this year. They brought Jerron Bradley from Texas Tech. They brought Jaden McGowan in from Vanderbilt. Neither one of them has really been able to, get too much production, through the first 4 games. But Lewis Bond is a guy, and he caught the game-winning touchdown last week. He's just, he's what you call a dog. He's a guy who he gets everything in between the hashes, and he can go deep on you, and he can catch it over the top as well. A very physical receiver. He goes up and he gets the ball. He's been a lot of fun to watch, and him and Tommy over the last year plus, year and a half, they've really built a strong rapport together. So, really look out for, I would say, between our 2 running backs that are going to get, the majority of the carries, and Lewis Bond, who's going to be, he's going to have another day for himself. And I wouldn't be surprised if Morales, our tight end, he's a transfer from UNC, big body tight end. He hasn't had a lot of production, but he's more of like your red zone type of guy. And I wouldn't be too shocked if he has a couple catches at least inside the red zone on Saturday as well.
Yeah, definitely take note of those guys. Hilltopper fans, they have a very good offense, and you're definitely going to be seeing those names called. I guarantee that.
Yeah.
Now, the WKU offense is really predicated on tempo, spreading the ball around to a lot of different receivers and getting guys out in space. So I guess I want to look at the other side of the ball for Boston College. Who are some of the guys on the defensive side of the ball that are going to be trying to disrupt and blow up our plays and our tempo and get us off the field?
You're going to want to look first and foremost right at one of our edge guys, Donovan Ezaraku. Number 6, you're going to see him, you're going to feel him, and you're going to hear him, right? Like, he's long, he's fast, he's mean, he gets after the quarterback. 2 years ago, he had a phenomenal sophomore year. Last year, he really struggled, and this year he has just picked up, right where he left off 2 years ago. So he's kind of like your classic, long, lean defensive end. So that's someone to definitely, mark on your TV. Cam Arnold, who's, one of my personal favorites. He's a middle linebacker. He's a kid who is just, he's another like throwback type of defensive player. Short tackler. He can also get back there and pass coverage. And then the last guy I would definitely highlight is Amari Jackson, who's a cornerback for us. He's our top cornerback. I don't know if you saw he probably had the interception at least of the year last year down in Georgia Tech. It was like the most insane interception I've ever seen. But he's a guy, definitely keep an eye on a very good man coverage, lockdown cornerback who, the first half of the Missouri game, he had what's his name, Luther, it just in an absolute pretzel Burton, for a while. So he's gonna come to play. He's physical, a little bit undersized, but it's kind of like those guys with the chip on their shoulders got a little extra to prove. So.
Oh, I understand that completely. And those guys got a little chip on their shoulder. Sometimes those are the most funnest guys to watch. If you don't mind, can we get you to pinpoint 3 keys of victory that Boston College has to do to get this W?
So, ball control. One of the things that really behooved us, whether it was the Florida State game, the first half of the Missouri game, or the second half of the Michigan State game. Long drives, a lot of plays, keeping the defense off the field. That goes a long way when you have, good running backs that are, keeping you ahead of the sticks at 4 or 5 yards a clip. So I would say, being able to, control the time of possession. Also really just, controlling the turnover battle, right? Like I believe that BC in the second half of the Michigan State game had, I think it was 4 turnovers in the second half. So really being able to, get the turnovers, on defense, keep you guys from entering the red zone. And and then the most important thing, which is a very throwback type of BC, being former O-line U, is really controlling the line of scrimmage. That's something that BC has gotten back to in the last couple of years, is really reestablishing their dominance, up front. And I think that that's going to be huge for them. And I know that kind of goes hand in hand with, time of possession and ball control and things like that. But, that's what it's going to all come down to for BC, because they're not when it comes to passing, I would say that they're very conservative, and they really look to work defenses over on the ground and just wear you down and make you almost want to like give up by the end with their 10, 11, 12 yard drives.
Yeah, definitely wear you out. Another guy I want to talk about, we've already talked about him, mentioned him a couple of times, is Kai Robichaux, former WKU running back, transferred to Boston College last year. So obviously he's going to be a familiar face on the other side of the field. I think you all on your podcast account shared with me earlier this morning, I don't think we're going to see him suiting up for this game, but I still want to talk about him. And you've already mentioned that he's one of your favorite players on the team. Yeah. But what has his stint been like at Boston College?
His stint has been extremely successful. Like he came into last year, and there was a lot of uncertainty. We weren't sure who the quarterback was going to be, right? Like we had another kid coming into the year who was supposed to be our quarterback, who they yanked after the second drive. I don't think that Kai really got many snaps in the initial season opener last year. But once they put him in the Holy Cross game and realized like what he could do, like I said, he's like a bowling ball. Like you don't take him down. He goes down when he feels like it, or when you get 3 or 4 people on him. And once they realized kind of what they had, it was off to the running for him. And he's been a very stable, dependable back for us. I think he rushed close to 800 yards last year, and I think he missed a couple games too. But yeah, I mean, when he's all said and done, Boston College fans are going to look back very fondly on him, and he's going to be, one of those guys that, in my opinion, that people are going to, he's going to be like one of those. You remember Kai Robichaux? He was, people are going to remember who he was. Happy to share him with you guys. Very happy to share him with you guys, because he has been very successful. And Patrick Garwo, who was an all ACC running back for us, that's who I was thinking of. Kai took over a spot last year and just never looked back. And he just was the de facto starter the rest of the year. And, he's hurt right now, but once he comes back, it's his spot. And Trayshawn Ward and him, it's like 1A and 1B. And, his time here has been a massive success, I would say.
Well, I'm just over here trying to smile through the pain, man. You just brought back, dang you. But
he's a great kid too. Very nice.
He really is.
He's a very nice kid.
I seriously hated to lose him, but I understand he had to do what's best for him, and I don't blame him at all. But now, can we get a score prediction out of you? How do you see this game going?
I'm gonna go. I believe on our show yesterday, I said 38-21. I think, especially after the emotional win last week.
Who wins?
No. Oh, Boston College. WKU, right? No, I'm gonna go BC 38-21. And the reason I'm gonna say that is because we're at home. We're really kind of starting to hit our stride and fire on all cylinders. But I could see it being a lot closer than that. That for me, with a score prediction like that, it's wishful thinking. But I could see I could truly see you guys coming in and, maybe we squeak out like a 31-21, 31-24 type of game. But, for the graphic purposes, I'll go, 38-21.
I say that's respectable. And I do agree with you. I think Boston College is playing really well. And I think, we've seen Western play really well this season against Middle Tennessee. We've also seen us, get shut out against another top 25 opponent in Alabama. So,
Yeah, but
we've
that's
seen
Alabama.
that's
That
Alabama.
that doesn't count.
It's still yin and yang. We didn't show up, we didn't play. But I am expecting a good contingent of WKU fans to make the trip. I think we talked about
Good,
that on your show.
good,
I wouldn't be surprised to see anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people wearing this color red there in your stadium.
good.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Unfortunately, I'm not making the trip. I don't believe Tyler is either. But for the listeners and maybe people that are going or listening on the way up there, flying, driving, however they're getting there, what are some local spots, food, tailgate, etc., in and around Alumni Stadium that you might recommend that visitors making their first trip up there need to
Yeah,
check out?
yeah. You definitely want to go to Pino's Pizza. Anywhere in Cleveland Circle, probably about a 5-minute drive down the street. Um, right next door to that is Eagles Deli. If you want to do the Eagles Deli challenge, I don't recommend it on a game day. Basically, I think it's like
What is it? Yeah.
it's like I want to say maybe like 20 patties, like 5 pounds of French fries, and if you finish it, you get your name on the wall and the meal for free. But I don't recommend it before a football game. But Eagles Deli is phenomenal, and I would say Pino's Pizza, which is right next door. If you're looking for, maybe some food and some drinks, City Side, which is, right around the corner from there. All good locations kind of in the area. And, if you're looking to kind of go up beyond campus, on the tailgates, there's, plenty of spots there. And, you kind of go up to any BC fan, I'm sure they'll have no problem feeding you either. So we're very, we're Boston. But we're friendly. We're not assholes up here. I know that's kind of the stigma that we're a bunch of jerks, but we take care of our own. And if you guys are in our building, then you guys will be taken care of. And I'm excited to have you guys up.
That's awesome, man. We do appreciate those recommendations. I hope anyone listening checks out those spots. Feel free to bounce around tailgating. It sounds like they're going to welcome you with open arms before the
Absolutely.
game starts. Maybe after the game starts, maybe then we see the Boston start to come out a little bit. Maybe that's where it is. If it's a tight game. Now, Brett, again, I appreciate you for joining us. But before we let you go, I want you to be able to take a moment and plug your show, where listeners can find you and your podcast and learn more about Boston College from your point of view.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you guys for having me. Thank you for hopping on our show yesterday. It's stuff like this. I love doing it. I love being able to collab with both sides and, really give the listeners kind of a more extensive knowledge of the opposing team. So thank you so much. You can find our work at Eagles Weekly BC. That's our podcast. And then we also have a website at Eagles Daily BC where, we have plenty of articles on football, basketball, hockey, and a little bit of baseball. So either one of those, we're on Twitter and we're on Instagram. So anywhere there, and really looking forward to Saturday. And thank you again for having me on, guys.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you. And again, same to you. Thanks for having me on your show. We appreciate it. We look forward to the game and best of luck on Saturday.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Hey, man, thank you. Appreciate it.
Man, really awesome interview. Really appreciate Brett from the Eagles Weekly podcast joining us. Obviously, I had a lot of fun joining them for their podcast just a couple days ago to talk some Hilltopper football to help them get more familiar with us and what to expect. So, really enjoy that. Every week we're having someone from the other team's perspective that really knows their team and what to expect, and just who we need to be looking out for. And even just making those recommendations for people making the trip up there. Some places you need to go check out, some tailgating, some restaurants. Go find you a good a good meal or a good cold drink, whatever it may be. Just really good insight. Players to look out for. Just really enjoyed that. And really appreciate Brett for joining us. So now, Tyler, let's jump into these keys to victory versus Boston College. What's your first key to victory to get this win?
Contain the dang run. Their QB, he can't rush at last year. What he had like 1,400 rushing yards. Of course, they got Kyle Robichaux, but he'll be out. Obviously, their running back's good, so we have to be able to contain the run, slow it down as much as possible, and force him to do something or to throw the ball into our coverage. So kind of gives us a chance.
Yeah, I'm going to go with just play cleaner football. We just talked about that in the Toledo recap that we had 3 turnovers. We had 10 penalties for 104 yards. You can't go on the road as an underdog to a Power 4, fringe top 25 team. You can't go into that environment and what is going to be a good crowd. When I looked at they've had 2 home games this year. They had 38,000 for one and 44,000 for the other. So it's going to be a good crowd. It's going to be loud. They're winning ball games. Bill O'Brien has kind of flipped the culture there of what they're going to expect and how they're going to perform. So they're going to be a more disciplined, a better team than your average. We want to call it a winnable P4 game. I think they're not the same old Boston College that we would have expected 2 or 3 years ago. They're a team that is fringe top 25. They're going to play good football. They have a good rushing attack, like you just said. We have to contain that, but we also have to play clean football. We can't turn the ball over multiple times. We can't commit penalties that put us behind schedule or continue drives for them or wipe off turnovers off the board like we saw against Toledo. We just have to play clean football like we saw early in the season where we're only having 2 or 3 penalties a game. Maybe 1 or 2 turnovers we might be able to live with. Anything more than that, it could be a long day there on the road. So what's your second key to victory?
I'm going to say win the battle in the trenches. You're going to have to clog them holes up so their runners can't get in there. And we also got to keep Caden clean. We can't have him getting sacked a lot or getting hurried. We're going to have to give him time and let the plays progress. And we're going to have to, like I said, this goes into feeding to containing the run. You're going to have to try to force the running backs or the QB into our dudes.
Yeah, my second key to victory is just going to be getting off the field on third down. I think we saw that versus Toledo. I mentioned that, they were 9 of 13 on third downs before the weather delay, and then only 1 out of 5 after the weather delay. Now, this is a team that can rush the ball, can run the ball with a mobile quarterback very well, can extend drives, can put together, 10, 11, 12 play drives that eat up a lot of clock. Play ball control, like Brett mentioned earlier in the interview. It's hard for us to score points if our defense is on the field and the offense is not even getting a chance to be on the field. So when we get into those, favorable third down situations, we have to win first down, we have to win second down, and get into those third and mid situations and not 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 every time where they can load the box and just run straight up the middle and get an easier first down versus 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. So we have to get off the field on third down and let our offense get back on the field to try to win this game. What's your third key to victory versus Boston College?
This one's going to be, once again, play like hell because after this we have a bye week. So obviously there's no reason why we shouldn't be playing hard, playing tough, hitting hard because we're going to have, a week to heal up and get ready for our next game. But definitely get back, try to play as hard as you can, create chaos, make them uncomfortable.
I'm going to go with my third key to victory being just to open up the offense. I think, we saw a bigger glimpse of that versus Middle Tennessee. It really felt like we were really efficient, spreading the ball around, getting a lot of guys in space, the opportunity to make easy catches and then make plays after they caught the ball. It didn't feel like we did that as well versus Toledo. If we got a little bit more conservative because of some early turnovers and just the flow of the game, how it was playing out. I think, we're kind of going in there with house money. We're 3-1 on the season right now. We're going in there as underdogs. We're not expected to win this game. We're going in there with our backup quarterback starting the game for only his second career start. I think most people in Vegas expect us to lose this game. ESPN matchup predictor gives us an 11% chance to win this game. So playing with house money, go in there, nothing to lose, open the offense up, throw some Dr. Pepper, some double passes, some Dalvin, getting creative, throwing some bombs, some touchdown passes, just open it up, let those guys have fun. Let the defense keep in the ball game. We're going to have to go in there and score points. It's not going to be a low scoring affair. If we want to win this ball game, we're going to have to go in there and score some points if we want to upset them. So open up the offense and let those guys have fun, man. Give me your MVT for this game versus Boston College.
I'm going to flip it up a little bit this week. I'm not going offense. I'm going defense. And I'm going to go with Kylan Goodry on this one. I feel like him at the linebacker position, he can either try to stop the run, force a blitz, get back in there and try to rush the QB, or sack him. I prefer sack, and just try to hit the dudes behind the line of scrimmage.
I'm gonna go with Caden Veltkamp. I'm gonna go with quarterback 1. I think he got his first start jitters out of the way. It was a home game. It was a big, loud crowd. Now he's going on the road and going to be facing a hostile crowd as a visiting team. Potentially 40,000 plus people. Obviously he's seen 100,000 at Alabama, so he can handle that noise. He can handle that pressure. But now, it's going to kind of be just more comfortable for him. He can run this offense. He can lead us to victory. Now it's not his first rodeo. I want to see him just be more comfortable out there, open up this offense, just like, when he came in versus MTSU, he was letting that ball fly, 300 plus passing yards, 5 touchdowns, stellar game. Had a good game versus Toledo, but, left some plays on the field that I'm sure he'd like to have back. So I want to see Caden just continue to grow, to continue to develop. Still remember he's a redshirt sophomore making his second career start and his 4th career game action, and just a road environment as the underdog. I don't want to say all the weight's on his shoulders, but if we want to win this game, it's going to have to come off his shoulder throwing that ball around. So let's see it. That's my MVT. What about your score prediction versus Boston College? Are you sticking with the preseason score, or what do you got for me?
All right, so my preseason score was 34-27, Tops win. I am going to come off of it. Our score staying the same. I'm just moving Boston College up a little bit. Top's still going to win it, but it's going to be to the tune of 34-31. My last few weeks, I've been really close. MTSU, I was so close against Toledo. If I wouldn't have changed it, I'd have been a lot closer than what I was. Thought that game was going to go over the 56. It didn't. I lost money on that too. But yeah, I'm going to stick with Tops winning 34-31.
Yeah, I am changing my preseason score prediction because my preseason score prediction had us winning 31-28, and that was before I got to see this Boston College team under the leadership of Bill O'Brien and just how quick he kind of turned them around and made them a top 25 caliber team, even if they've had a rough couple weeks in their loss to Missouri, and then they had to come back and win versus Michigan State. They're still, top 25 just a couple weeks ago. Receiving votes, they're top 28 now. If you look at where they stand as far as receiving votes, I think this is going to be a tough game, and I think we can win. For all the reasons we've already talked about, keys to victory, things we have to do to go in there and get a victory. But I just think it's going to be a tall task, and I'm going to change my score prediction. I have it 38-28. I'm giving it to Boston College, a 10-point win. It's currently a 12.5-point spread. So we cover that. We hold it closer than expected, and they score a late touchdown to open that up. Probably trying to salt the game away with their running game, keep us off the field, and just trying to put the game away with their legs. So that's how I see it playing out. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I come back next week on our recap episode or on the spaces directly after the game. Yeah, and I hope I eat the whole bowl of crow, because I promise you, I'll be the first one. I'll type it up, send it out with the final score tweet. Like, my bad, I was wrong. Signed Moth. If I'm wrong and we don't lose by 10, if we win by 10, I will put my signature all over it. I promise you that. I'm not too big to admit being wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Again, I want WKU to win every game, and I think we can, but I do think it's going to be an uphill battle. I do think Boston College is a tough opponent, and it's going to be a tough environment. I haven't even looked at what the weather could and may look like for this game. Obviously, I hope it's not a factor. I hope it's not a sloppy, wet game. That would really kind of lend itself to being favorable to them with the rushing attack that they have. I haven't looked at that. Probably will do that as soon as we get off this recording, but looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great game. Kind of just another litmus test of where we are at now as we get to finish up our non-conference schedule and then fully turn our attention, to the conference slate going forward after this game. So looking forward to it. I really hope we shock not only myself, but just, all of college football and go get this victory on this early Saturday morning game. So Tyler, I guess give me your final words and then take us on the heck out of here.
Yeah, I forgot to mention it whenever we was playing. Whenever we're talking about the Toledo game, the defense. One play that sticks to my mind is their tight end Torres caught the ball. It was in the red zone. We had an undersized defender, went up, got him around the ankles, held on like he was holding on to a Bronco in rodeo, and was able to keep him from going forward until some other guys got there to help knock him down. That same defense, that grit of that defense, I really hope they come and come to the game on Saturday because we're going to need them. But it should be a really fun game. I'm going to try to watch it, listen to it. Wish I was going up there to Boston. A lot of historical things up there. I would love to see Bunker Hill and all of them historical sites maybe one day. But man, this game, I hope we come out and shock them because, that's what makes college athletics so much fun. It's just the unknown, and I hope our offense cleans itself up. We cut down on them penalties a lot, but should be a fun game. So everyone, until next time, see you. Moth, who has better than us?
Nobody, buddy. You know it.
Go Tops.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See you.